So we read in the Sumerian text that these beings called the Anunnaki, came to Earth from wherever, and they came here to mine gold. And there you see the connection, the obsession with gold. And again, you can test it. You can see that our obsession with gold goes all the way to the book of Genesis. Genesis 2, and I'm digressing again, but it's important for people to understand the connectedness of all these stories. Yeah. Where did humans become obsessed with gold? Why? And when you read modern history books and that, you read all the BS, all the lies and deceptions. Why humans became obsessed with gold. And in Enslaved Species of God, I mentioned some of those lies because they saw gold and it was shiny and beautiful and they were drawn to it because of its beauty. Come on, really. Just people were worried about growing food and building communities and baking bread and surviving, and gold is a whole different thing. But because gold, you can trace back to Genesis 2. And I went and did this. And I'm sure many of your listeners will probably have done this themselves. So the first time we hear the mention of gold is in Genesis 2, before Eve has been created. So Adam is alone on earth. And God says, I want to take Adam to the land of Havilah, where the water is good, the land is good, and there is gold. Why would God be obsessed with gold? Can you see? Now, with that statement, we draw a difference between God with a big G, who doesn't care about gold, and the gods with a small g, that are obsessed with gold. So whoever was manipulating Adam and wanted to take Adam from this place to that place because there's gold, we need to start to read between the lines and start differentiating between when does the Bible refer to the creator of the universe, the God with a big G, and then the malicious, evil beings called the Anunna or the Anunnaki or the Elohim or the Nephilim or the Zanzimim, because those are the malicious beings that were abusing humanity. The sons of God saw the daughters of man and they came down from the heavens, and that were the daughters of man and created a whole new species. And that was a serious event. There's a huge controversy about why they were obsessed with gold. I've reached a completely different conclusion now. And they were so obsessed with it that they would go to extreme lengths to get it, like extreme lengths to get it, which means it must have been really, really important to them. It's not just something that they wanted. It's something that they needed to survive. Okay, so if we can agree on that, then a lot of things will start making sense. Because many of the things that we read about how the Anunnaki behaved, what they did, and why they cloned a new species called the Adamu race. Adam, same thing. So the Sumerian texts talk about Adamu, the Bible calls it Adam. And now we start seeing the connection between this ancient Sumerian texts that were much older than the Bible or any of the other ancient scriptures, and we start seeing the connection. So when they cloned the Adamu and they created the Adamu species, they cloned it as a species to do the slave labor in the gold mines because they needed the gold and they were tired of doing all the work themselves. And there are very interesting references to these events in the Sumerian texts. So now you start seeing the connection between the Sumerian texts, the Anunna gods, the Anunnaki, the obsession with gold, why humanity was obsessed with gold, and the fact that the gold didn't belong to humans. We know this from when the European settlers started to arrive in the Americas and Africa and India. Whenever they found ancient civilizations, guess what they all had? Huge vaults of gold. All the Americans, El Dorado, the fabled cities of gold. And when you read the historic events of when the Spaniards arrived there, when the Portuguese arrived in Africa and in India, and all the gold they found everywhere, all these ancient civilizations around the world were obsessed with gold. Where did that obsession come from? And we can start tracing it back to our obsession of gold that we got from the Anunnaki.